I'd been sleeping in my taxi for 3 months when I picked up the passenger who changed everything. I was at rock bottom, homeless, broke, surviving on gas station coffee and spare tips. Then one night, a well-dressed man stepped into my cab, glanced at me in the rearview mirror, and froze. "My God," he whispered, "you look exactly like my brother, but he's been missing for 25 years. Before we get into that, tell me in the comments, what's the most unexpected connection you've ever made with a stranger? And if stories about family, second chances, and rediscovering where you belong speak to you, make sure to follow this page so you don't miss the next one. 6 months earlier, my life looked fine on paper. I had a house in the suburbs, a wife who smiled for photos, 2 kids who called me dad, and a small construction company that paid the bills. I wasn't wealthy, but I was comfortable. I had purpose. Then, in just 2 weeks, everything collapsed. Our biggest client defaulted on payments and the company couldn't recover. I had to lay off 12 loyal workers, lock up the office, and hand the keys to the bank. 20 years of work, gone overnight. My wife, Jessica, didn't take the news well. "How could you not see this coming?" she demanded, pacing the kitchen. "How could you be so careless with our future?" I tried to explain about the client, the economy, and how unpredictable construction can be, but she'd already made her decision. Within a week, she filed for divorce and moved back to her mother's with our kids, Ella, 8, and Ricky, 6. "I can't do this anymore, Ezra," she said while packing their clothes. "The kids need stability. I'll figure something out." I tried to stay calm, but her next words hit hard. "You're 42, with no degree and a failed business. Who's going to hire you?" The worst part was, she wasn't wrong. My entire career had revolved around that one company, one skill set, and one network that no longer existed. I was starting from zero, at an age when most people were planning for retirement. After the house went into foreclosure, I rented a small, smoky studio apartment. When the unemployment checks stopped and no jobs came through, even that became too expensive. That's when I bought an old yellow Crown Victoria from a driver leaving the business. 200,000 miles on it, cracked leather seats, and duct tape holding the passenger chair together. It wasn't much, but it was something. The taxi company took 60% of my fares, leaving barely enough for food, gas, and a cheap motel room. When that became too much, I started sleeping in the car. For 3 months, that was my life. I'd shower at truck stops, brush my teeth in gas station bathrooms, and try to look presentable enough to avoid complaints. My clothes were wrinkled, my beard uneven, and I could feel the judgment in people's eyes when they got in. I'd become invisible, the kind of person society looks away from, a reminder of how quickly things can fall apart. The morning I met Logan, I'd been up since 4 a.m., waiting outside the airport for early arrivals. I'd made maybe $30, just enough for gas and a cup of coffee. My back ached from another night in the driver's seat, and I was wondering how much longer I could keep this up. Then the call came in. Pick up at the downtown Marriott, heading to the airport. Pulling up to the hotel, I felt out of place. My beat-up taxi looked shabby next to the sleek sedans and luxury cars that usually served guests there. A man in his 40s stood by the curb, checking his phone. Expensive suit, polished shoes, leather briefcase. The kind of person who never had to worry about the next meal. "Airport?" I asked as he got in. "Actually, change of plans," he said. "Take me to 1500 Market Street, please." As I drove off, I glanced in the rearview mirror. He was staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Shock, maybe disbelief. "Is everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated before replying. "I'm sorry, this will sound strange, but what's your name?" "Ezra," I said, eyes on the road. "Ezra what?" "Just Ezra. No last name." His face went pale. "You don't know your last name?" I sighed. I was in an accident 25 years ago, head injury, lost most of my memories from before that day. The hospital called me John Doe, but I chose Ezra afterward. It just felt right. He stared at me like I'd said something impossible. 25 years ago? How old were you? 17, according to the doctors. Why? He leaned forward, voice low. My brother disappeared 25 years ago. He was 17 too. I froze at the light, hands trembling on the steering wheel. "That's quite a coincidence," I said carefully. "Is it?" he replied, his voice steady but intense. "What do you remember about the accident?" "Not much. I was found on a highway about 50 miles outside the city. No ID, no wallet, and no one reported me missing. The police assumed I was a runaway or a hitchhiker. The head injury erased everything from before that day. 50 miles outside the city, he repeated quietly. That's the same highway my brother was travelling when he disappeared. I pulled over and parked by the curb, my heart pounding. Look, Mr. Westfield. Logan, he corrected. Logan Westfield. Mr. Westfield, I think there's been a mistake, I said. What are the odds? My brother's name was Ezra, he said softly. The name hit me like a punch. I turned to face him fully. What did you say? My brother. His name was Ezra Westfield. He was 17 when he disappeared. Logan pulled out his phone and scrolled through his gallery. You look exactly like our father did at your age. He held up a photo, an old family picture of 2 parents and 2 boys, one about 19, the other 17. The younger boy had my eyes, my nose, my mouth. It was like looking into a mirror from 25 years ago. That's impossible, I murmured. Is it? Logan's voice was calm but hopeful. Why do you think you chose the name Ezra? Maybe something deep inside you remembered it was yours. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. The resemblance was undeniable, but none of it made sense. If I had a family, wouldn't someone have reported me missing? Wouldn't someone have been looking for me? We were, Logan said, emotion heavy in his voice. We never stopped. The police, private investigators, volunteers. We searched for years. Then why didn't they find me? I was in the hospital for months. My picture was in the papers. Logan's face fell. You were found 50 miles away in a different county, different police department, different newspapers. He paused, then added carefully, Our parents died 6 months after you disappeared, in another car accident. They were driving back from meeting a private investigator when it happened. They never gave up hope of finding you. The weight of his words hit me hard. Your parents died? Our parents, he said gently. Yes. Something cracked inside me. All those years I'd imagined I might have parents searching for me, people who missed me, but I'd never thought they might be gone. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Don't be, he replied. None of this was your fault. He leaned forward. Ezra, do you remember anything? Anything before the accident? I closed my eyes, trying to reach into the void of forgotten years. Sometimes I dream, I said slowly. A woman's voice singing. The smell of chocolate cake. A dog, maybe. But doctors said those could just be my brain filling in blanks. Mom used to sing while she cooked, Logan said, and we had a golden retriever named Buster. You loved that dog. A flash of something stirred, warm fur, a wet nose, a bark, and then it vanished. Maybe, I don't know. What about this? Logan showed another photo. 2 boys building a snowman, both smiling at the camera. Christmas 1998, you were 16. I studied the picture. The boy's smile looked familiar, like a reflection, recognizable but distant. I want to believe you, I said, but what if you're wrong? What if it's just coincidence? Then we'll find out for sure, Logan said. A DNA test. It'll take a few days, but we'll know definitively. I looked at him, the well-dressed man who might be my brother, and felt something I hadn't in months. Hope. It scared me. Why a taxi? I asked. You seem like someone who could afford a car service. Logan smiled, his first genuine one, and it looked like mine. My car's in the shop. I tried ordering a rideshare, but the app wouldn't work, so I called a cab. Funny, right? 25 years of searching, and I find you because of a phone glitch. If you find me, I corrected. We don't know anything yet. No, he said, but I hope we do. I really hope we do. I noticed the meter's still running. Your fare's going to be expensive if we keep sitting here. I don't care, Logan said. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you okay? I mean, your situation, work, living, everything. Heat rose to my cheeks. I'm between places right now. The taxi's temporary. His expression softened. You're homeless. It wasn't a question. I didn't deny it. It's not permanent. I'm working on it. Jesus, Ezra, how long? 3 months. Look, this isn't charity, he said. If you're my brother, or even if you're not, no one should be sleeping in a car. I wanted to argue, to hold on to what little pride I had left, but I was exhausted, tired of pretending everything was fine. What do you want to do? I asked quietly. First, we get that DNA test, he said. Then, no matter the result, you're getting somewhere safe to stay while we figure this out. I can't afford. I can, Logan interrupted. Let me help you, please. I looked at him. This stranger who might be family, offering help and something close to hope, and made a choice that would change everything. Okay, I said, let's find out who I really am. That night, Logan paid for a modest but clean hotel room. The bed was soft, the sheets warm, luxuries I hadn't known in months. I slept deeply for the first time in ages. The next morning, he picked me up in a rental car and we drove to a DNA testing clinic. The process was quick, a cheek swab and a few forms, but the moment felt immense. Results in 3 to 5 business days, the technician said, handing us a receipt. What do we do until then? I asked as we walked back to the car. We investigate, Logan said. I kept everything from the search for you. Logan's apartment was in a renovated warehouse downtown, exposed brick, high ceilings and sleek furniture, the kind of place that spoke of success. It was nothing like the studio I'd lost or the nights I'd spent sleeping in my taxi. You've done well for yourself, I said, glancing around. Besides the inheritance, I got lucky, he replied. Started a software company right after college, sold it 5 years ago. But Ezra, if you really are my brother, half of everything I have is yours. Our parents left us equal shares of their estate. I don't want your money, I said quickly. It's not mine, he insisted. It's ours. They built everything for their sons, both of us. He led me to a spare room turned office. In one corner stood a metal filing cabinet filled with folders and documents. This is my search for you, he said quietly. Or it was. I stopped about 5 years ago. You stopped? I asked, surprised. Logan sat heavily in his chair. I had to. It was taking over my life. 20 years of leads, dead ends, and false hope. My relationships failed, my work suffered. I was obsessed with finding someone everyone told me was gone. My therapist said I had to let go, to live again. He ran his hand through his hair. I tried. I locked all this away, told myself I wouldn't open it again. I started dating, thought about marriage, tried to move on. What changed? I asked. Nothing, he said softly. That's the thing. When I saw you today, when you said your name was Ezra, it felt like the universe telling me I was right not to give up. Even when I stopped searching, a part of me knew you were still out there. We sat in silence for a moment before I asked, what happened the day I disappeared? You had a fight with Dad, he said. I don't remember what it was about, something small, the way teenage fights usually are. You stormed out, said you were walking to a friend's house. That was the last time anyone saw you. He opened a folder. A neighbor said they saw you walking for about 2 miles, then getting into a car. They couldn't see the driver or the plate, but they were sure it was you. So, someone picked me up. That's what we always believed, Logan said. Police investigated every lead, checked offenders, friends, schools, nothing. He laid a map on the desk, covered in red markers. These are all the places I searched, abandoned buildings, shelters, hospitals, morgues. We contacted police in 6 states and even posted your picture online, before social media existed. I traced the lines on the map, imagining Logan as a teenager trying to hold his life together while searching for his brother. This must have consumed you. It did, he said quietly. I dropped out of college for a semester, almost failed completely, but I couldn't stop, not while you were missing. A newspaper clipping caught my eye. Local teen found after highway accident. The date matched my accident. Is this? That's you, Logan said. Or we think it is. Look at the location. The article described a 17-year-old male found unconscious by Highway 94, 50 miles east of the city. No ID. Severe head trauma. The description fit everything I knew about my accident. But why didn't anyone connect this to your missing brother? Because the police in that county didn't talk to ours, Logan said. You were listed as John Doe, and we were looking for Ezra Westfield. And then our parents died before the link was made. I was 19, trying to settle their estate, stay in school, and keep the search alive. I didn't see that article until years later when I hired a better private investigator. Years later? 5 years, he said. By then, John Doe had been released from the hospital and vanished. No address, no record, no social security number. You disappeared into the system again. I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. So you've known about me for 20 years? I knew about a John Doe, Logan said, but there were dozens of them over the years, young men who might have been you. Most led nowhere. What made you think this one was different? He pulled out a thick folder. The investigator got your hospital records. The injuries matched someone thrown from a moving vehicle. And there was one more thing. He handed me a medical report with a highlighted line. Patient has distinctive birthmark on left shoulder blade, crescent-shaped, approximately 2 inches. I reached back and touched the small mark I'd always assumed was a birthmark. "You know about this?" I asked. "I gave it to you," Logan said quietly. "You fell off your bike when you were 3, or rather, I pushed you. You scraped your shoulder on the pavement, and it healed like that. Mom said it looked like a crescent moon." The room seemed to tilt. "That can't be. Doctors told me it was natural." I pulled off my shirt and turned around. "Is this it?" Logan drew in a sharp breath. "Oh my God, Ezra, that's it, exactly." I pulled my shirt back on, hands trembling. "We don't need the DNA test, do we?" Logan shook his head, his voice thick with emotion. "No, you're my brother. You're really my brother." He hugged me, and despite the shock, I found myself returning it. 3 days later, the DNA results arrived. 99.97% probability of a full sibling relationship. I was Ezra Westfield, the boy who had vanished 25 years earlier, and Logan was the brother who had never stopped searching. "I need to know what happened," I said, sitting in Logan's living room as the official results lay on the coffee table. Logan nodded, clearly thinking the same thing. "I hired a new investigator, someone experienced with cold cases. If answers existed, she would uncover them. Her name was Detective Riley, a sharp-minded former police officer who had seen too many families live with uncertainty. She took on our case with quiet determination, and within 2 weeks she had results. "I found your driver," she said, calling us to her office on a rainy Thursday afternoon. His name was Carl Brennan. He passed away 3 years ago, but before he died, he confessed to his son. Logan and I sat in stunned silence as she continued. Brennan had been driving drunk that night. He saw me walking along the road and offered me a ride, probably to help or to ease his conscience. A few miles later he lost control. The car rolled twice. He escaped with minor injuries, but I wasn't as lucky. Head trauma, unconscious, bleeding. "He left me there," Logan said flatly. "He did," Riley confirmed. "He panicked. He drove home and reported his car stolen the next morning. By the time police found the wreck, you'd already been picked up by a passing driver and taken to the hospital. And he stayed silent for 25 years, she added. Guilt caught up to him only near the end. On his deathbed, he told his son everything. The son had carried that burden for years until I tracked him down. He was relieved to finally tell the truth. A mix of emotions rushed through me, anger at the man who abandoned me, relief at finally knowing, and a quiet sense of closure after decades of uncertainty. "What about the missing person reports?" Logan asked. "How did no one connect the dots? Different counties, poor communication, and the investigation went in the wrong direction," Riley explained. "Everyone assumed you'd been kidnapped or had run away. No one thought to look for an accident victim 50 miles away." "So it was just bad luck," I said. "Bad luck," she agreed, "and a drunk driver who made a cowardly choice." After we left her office, Logan and I drove in silence for a while. He finally pulled over at a park where we'd played as kids, though I couldn't remember it. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Empty," I admitted. "I thought finding out would bring peace, but it just feels sad. 25 years lost because someone was too afraid to do the right thing." We sat quietly. I looked out at the playground, trying to imagine my younger self there. "What if I never remember any of it?" I asked. "Then we make new memories," Logan said simply. "You're my brother, whether you remember or not. That won't change." "I've been homeless for months," I told him. "Sleeping in my taxi. I don't even have my real name on my license." "Then we fix it," he said. "We'll get you a place, change your name back to Westfield, and figure out what's next. It's not charity. It's family. It's what Mom and Dad would have wanted." I looked at the man who had spent half his life searching for me, refusing to give up. "What if I'm not the brother you remember? What if I've changed too much? Then you're still my brother," he said quietly. "Just a different version." That night in the hotel room Logan had paid for, I lay awake thinking about identity, about the family we're born into and the one we choose. I'd lived 25 years without a past. Now I had to learn how to live with a future. A few days after the DNA test confirmed what we already knew, Logan and I were in his living room, surrounded by takeout containers. The conversation came easier each day, though there were still 25 years to fill in. "Can I ask you something?" Logan said, setting down his chopsticks. "What was it like, starting over at 17 with no memory, no family?" I leaned back, thinking. "Terrifying," I said finally. "The hospital tried to place me in foster care, but no one knew my exact age, and the system was overloaded. They gave me a social security number, helped me get a GED, and wished me luck." "Jesus," he murmured. "You were just a kid." "A kid with no past," I replied. "I started working construction, cash jobs at first. I was good with my hands and learned quickly. Over the years, I worked my way up from labourer to foreman to manager. Eventually, I started a small construction company, nothing big but steady. Home repairs, small renovations. I worked hard, charged fairly, and built a reputation." "That's incredible," Logan said. "Building a life from nothing." "It helped that I didn't know it was supposed to be impossible," I said with a faint smile. "I met Jessica while renovating her apartment. She was kind and steady, didn't press me about my past. We married when I was 32, she was 27. Our daughter Ella came 2 years later, then our son Ricky." My voice faltered slightly. "They're everything to me. Ella's laugh sounds like music, and Ricky, he collects rocks like treasures, always has his pockets full of them." Logan's expression softened. "Do you see them often?" "Every other weekend when I can afford it. Jessica moved back to her mother's place about an hour away. The kids don't understand why their dad lives in a car now, or why we can't go to McDonald's anymore." I rubbed my face, remembering when Ella asked if I was sick because I looked so tired. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that sometimes life simply unravels? "You don't have to live like that anymore," Logan said quietly. "We can fix this. Everything." "I know," I replied. "It's just hard to believe. For 25 years, I've been Ezra Nobody, the man with no past, no family, no safety net. When life fell apart, there was no one to call." "You're not alone anymore," Logan said firmly. "And your kids, Ella and Ricky, they're my niece and nephew. They're family." The realization hit me hard. I hadn't even thought of it that way. "Start thinking about it," he said, "because I want to meet them. I want to be the uncle who spoils them and teaches them things you'd rather they didn't know." For the first time in months, I felt a faint sense of hope, for my children, and maybe for myself. "They'd like that," I said. "Ricky especially. He always asks why we don't have family like other kids do." "Well, now you do," Logan said. "All of you." 2 weeks later, I stood in the parking lot of a family restaurant, halfway between Logan's place and Jessica's mother's house, watching my brother pace nervously beside his rental car. "You're more nervous than I was on my first date," I teased. "I've never been an uncle before," he said, adjusting his shirt for the 3rd time. "What if they don't like me?" "They're 6 and 8, not a board of directors," I said. "Just be yourself." Jessica's car pulled in, and I felt that familiar mix of love and regret as I watched my children climb out. Ella came running, her curls bouncing. Ricky followed, clutching a handful of rocks. "Daddy!" Ella shouted as I lifted her into my arms. "Hey, sweetheart, I missed you." Ricky hung back, cautious. "Dad, who's that man?" I knelt beside him. "Ricky, Ella, this is someone very special. This is your Uncle Logan." Ella's eyes widened. "We have an uncle? You do now," Logan said, crouching down. "I've been waiting a long time to meet you both." "Dad said we didn't have any family," Ricky said, studying him seriously. "Well," Logan smiled up, "sometimes family finds you when you least expect it. What's that you've got there?" "Rocks," Ricky said proudly, opening his hand. "I found them behind Grandma's house. This one looks like a heart." Logan examined them with care. "These are amazing. I used to collect rocks too. Still have some." "Really? Can I see them sometime?" "Absolutely." While Logan talked with the kids, I caught Jessica's eye and gestured for her to join me aside. She followed, calm but cautious. "He seems wonderful," she said, glancing back at Logan, who was showing Ella something on his phone. "I know this is a lot," I said, "but I wanted to talk about the kids, about how we move forward." "They've been asking about you," she said softly. "Ella wanted to know why you missed her school play. Ricky asked if you were going to live in your car forever." Her words stung, but I kept steady. "As I told you, my parents died years ago. Logan insisted I take my share of the inheritance. I didn't want to, but he said it's what our parents would have wanted. Now I can finally provide for them properly. I want to be part of their lives again." "I want that too," she said, her tone softening. "Ezra, I never kept them from you out of anger. I was protecting them. Seeing you struggle so much, it scared them." "I understand," I said. She smiled, watching Ricky show Logan another rock. "Now they can have their father back and an uncle who clearly adores them already." "We'll never be what we were," I said gently, "but we can be good parents. We can give them stability." "That's all I ever wanted," she said. "For them to feel safe and loved by both of us, even if we're not together." Before I could reply, Ricky ran over. "Dad, Uncle Logan says he has a pool. Can we go swimming?" I looked at Jessica, who smiled genuinely. "That sounds fun, buddy. What do you think, Mom?" "I think," she said, ruffling Ricky's hair, "that Uncle Logan's going to spoil you both." "That's the plan," Logan called, walking over with Ella on his shoulders. "I've got 25 years of uncle duties to catch up on." As we went inside, I felt grateful. Grateful that Jessica and I could finally put our children first and rebuild something healthy from what was broken. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my new apartment. Not fancy, but mine. My name was on the lease. I was making coffee for Logan, who'd come for our usual Saturday breakfast. It had become a tradition, a small way to rebuild the bond we'd lost. The memories hadn't returned all at once, like in movies. They came slowly, moments triggered by his laugh, by the scent of our mother's perfume at her grave, by familiar habits I didn't know I remembered. Each one felt like returning to a home I'd almost forgotten. "I have news," Logan said as I handed him his coffee. "Good or bad?" "Good. The insurance settlement came through. We sued Carl Brennan's estate, not for the money, but for recognition. Once Detective Riley's evidence came in, the case was straightforward. The insurance company agreed to a settlement to cover your medical expenses and compensate for the 25 years lost." "How much?" I asked. "Enough," Logan said with a small smile. "Enough to truly start over. Enough to start fresh and choose your own path." I sat across from Logan, still trying to process that I finally had control over my life again. "I've been thinking," I said. "I don't want to go back to construction. I'd like to finish what I never got to, get my GED, maybe take some college classes." Logan raised an eyebrow. "That's great. Ambitious, but good. What do you want to study?" "Maybe social work or counseling," I replied. "I keep thinking about the people I met while I was homeless, those who slipped through the cracks like I did. Maybe I could help them." "You'd be good at that," Logan said. "You know what it's like to lose everything and to find it again." We sat quietly for a while, drinking coffee and reading the paper like brothers who'd never been apart. "Logan," I said eventually. "Yeah? Thank you, for never giving up, for searching when everyone else stopped." "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You're my brother. That's what brothers do." "Still," I said, "it cost you time, money, your peace, tugs. You could have moved on, started your own life." Logan was silent for a moment before replying. "I tried a few times. I'd meet someone, start dating, think maybe I could move forward, but it never worked." "Why not?" I asked. "Because something was always missing," he said. "My family wasn't whole. I couldn't build something new while still grieving what I'd lost, but now I can. You're safe, alive, and healing. Now I can think about the future instead of being trapped in the past." I reached across the table and squeezed his shoulder. "I'm glad you found me," I said. "I'm glad you let yourself be found," he replied. Later that day, I drove my taxi, partly out of sentiment, partly because I wasn't ready to give up the independence it gave me, to the cemetery where our parents were buried. I'd been visiting them often, talking to their headstones like they could hear me, telling them about the life Logan and I were rebuilding. "I got my GED study guide," I said, sitting cross-legged between their graves. "Logan thinks I'm crazy for starting over at 42, but it beats starting at 82. The breeze rustled through the trees, and for a moment I could almost hear my mother's voice, proud and soft like in my dreams. "I wish I remembered you better," I said. "But Logan tells me stories, and sometimes it feels like remembering. He tells me how Mom used to sing while she cooked, and Dad taught us both how to change a tire when we were 12. He tells me how they never gave up looking for me, even when the police said I was probably gone. A couple passed by, hand in hand, visiting their own loved ones. I nodded to them, part of the quiet community of people who talk to the dead when the living can't quite understand. I'm going to be okay, I told my parents. We both are. Logan found me, and I found him. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. Driving home, I thought about the strange balance of loss and recovery. How 25 years of searching could end because of a glitchy rideshare app and a taxi driver who resembled someone's missing brother. I thought about Carl Brennan, who'd carried his secret to the grave, and the son who'd finally told the truth. Mostly I thought about Logan, who never stopped searching. My phone buzzed with a text from him. Dinner tomorrow. I'm making Mom's spaghetti recipe. Fair warning, I'm not as good as she was. I smiled and replied, I'll bring dessert. He texted back, thanks for coming back. As I parked in front of my apartment, I looked up at the windows, my home, and felt something I hadn't in 25 years, a sense of belonging. I wasn't the man sleeping in his car anymore. I was Ezra Westfield, a man with a past, a future, and a brother who never stopped believing he was worth finding. Sometimes the most meaningful journeys bring you back to where you began, to the family you thought you'd lost, and the name you were always meant to carry. A story of perseverance, family, and hope. How long have you ever searched for someone or something that mattered deeply to you? Share your story in the comments below. If this story of second chances and unbreakable family bonds touched you, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more heartfelt stories about finding your way home.